the massive oak door of the Beverly Hills mansion slams shut with enough force to rattle the crystal chandelier. Jonathan Hadley storms through his marble foyer, his $3,000 Italian suit wrinkled from another brutal day of corporate warfare. But what happened next shocked everyone, including Jonathan himself. "Damn incompetent board," he mutters, yanking off his silk tie and tossing his briefcase onto the antique console table. At 62, Jonathan has built a tech empire worth over $2 billion, but today's emergency board meeting nearly cost him everything. His hands shake as he pours himself 3 fingers of bourbon from the wet bar. The stress is getting to him. Last month's insider trading investigation, the SEC breathing down his neck, and now whispers of a hostile takeover have Jonathan Hadley, a man who never shows weakness, completely rattled. He climbs the grand staircase to his home office, desperate to secure his most liquid assets. The hidden wall safe behind his Monet painting contains exactly $1 million in untraceable cash, his insurance policy if everything goes sideways. Jonathan's fingers fumble with the combination, August 15, 1987, his daughter's birthday, before she stopped speaking to him. The safe clicks open, revealing neat stacks of $100 bills. Jonathan stares at the money that represents his freedom, his security, his last resort. His phone buzzes with another urgent call from his lawyer. "Hadley here," he snaps, pacing toward the window overlooking his infinity pool. "Jonathan, we need to talk immediately," his attorney's voice crackles through the speaker. New developments in the SEC case. Distracted by the devastating news, Jonathan hurries from his office, leaving the safe wide open. Little did he know that this single moment of carelessness would change everything. Downstairs, Maria Sanchez quietly enters through the service entrance, her worn sneakers silent against the marble floors. At 45, she's been cleaning Jonathan's mansion twice a week for 3 years, sending every dollar home to support her elderly mother's medical bills and her son's college tuition. Today feels different, heavier somehow. Maria climbs the stairs with her cleaning supplies, methodically working through each room just as she has hundreds of times before. But when she enters Jonathan's office to dust his desk, she freezes. The safe is open. Completely, impossibly open. Maria drops her cleaning cloth, her heart hammering against her ribs. Stacks of cash fill the metal cavity, more money than she's seen in her entire life. Her mother's voice echoes in her mind, "Mija, we're 3 months behind on the mortgage." The bank called again. This decision would change everything. Maria's hands tremble as she steps closer to the safe. 100, 200, maybe even $500,000 stare back at her. Her son Miguel's rejection letter from UCLA flashes through her memory, dreams crushed by their inability to pay tuition. Her mother's insulin, rationed because they can't afford the full prescription. But Maria Sanchez wasn't raised to be a thief. She backs away from the safe, her conscience warring with desperation. The numbers spin through her head like a cruel calculator: her mother's medical bills, Miguel's education, their crumbling apartment in East LA. $3,000 would solve their immediate crisis. Who would even notice such a small amount from this fortune? Maria glances at the clock on Jonathan's desk, 3:47 p.m. He usually doesn't return to his office until evening. She has time to think, time to decide. Her phone buzzes with a text from Miguel: "Mom, got into community college but need $800 for books by Friday or I lose my spot." The cash seems to whisper her name. Maria reaches toward the safe, then jerks her hand back as if burned. "No," she whispers in Spanish. "This isn't who I am." But the real shock was still coming. Heavy footsteps echo in the hallway outside Jonathan's office, growing louder with each second. Maria's blood turns to ice as she realizes someone is approaching, and she's standing 3 feet away from an open safe containing $1 million in cash. The footsteps stop directly outside the door. The footsteps grow louder, and Maria's heart pounds against her ribs like a trapped bird. She slams the safe door shut with trembling hands, the metallic click echoing through the marble-floored study. Her cleaning cloth shakes as she frantically wipes down the mahogany desk, trying to appear busy when Jonathan walks in. "Maria, How's everything going in here? Jonathan asks, loosening his silk tie. His voice carries the weight of exhaustion, but there's something else, a tension that wasn't there this morning. Very good, Mr. Hadley, Maria responds, her accent thickening with nervousness. I just finishing the desk area. Jonathan nods absently, walking to his bar cart and pouring himself 3 fingers of whiskey. Maria notices his hands aren't quite steady either. What kind of stress could a billionaire possibly have that would make him forget about $1 million in cash? As Maria continues dusting, her mind drifts back to this morning's phone call with her sister Carmen. The memory hits her like a physical blow, Carmen's voice breaking as she explained how the medical bills for her daughter's leukemia treatment had maxed out their insurance. $15,000. That's all they needed to keep little Sophia in treatment. $15,000 that might as well be $15 million for a family living paycheck to paycheck in East LA. The bank says they can't extend the loan, Maria, Carmen had sobbed. I don't know what we're going to do. Sophia starts asking why she can't go to the special doctor anymore. Maria had promised her sister she'd find a way, but how? Her modest salary barely covered her own rent in a cramped studio apartment. She sends what she can to help support her aging mother in El Salvador, leaving nothing for emergencies. The irony burns, she spends her days cleaning a mansion worth more than she'll earn in 10 lifetimes. Maria, Jonathan's voice snaps her back to the present. Has anyone else been in this room today? Any visitors, maintenance workers, anything unusual? The question sends ice through her veins. Does he know? No, sir. Just me for cleaning. Why you ask? Jonathan swirls his whiskey, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at his manicured grounds. I've been having some business complications lately. People I thought I could trust. He trails off, then shakes his head. Never mind. It's nothing you need to worry about. But Maria can see the worry etched in the lines around his eyes, the way his jaw clenches when he thinks she's not looking. Whatever's troubling him goes deeper than ordinary business stress. 20 minutes later, as Maria organizes the cleaning supplies in the utility closet, she hears the front doorbell's melodic chime echoing through the mansion. Through the service hallway window, she glimpses a man in an expensive charcoal suit being ushered in by Jonathan's assistant. The visitor has silver hair, predatory eyes, and the kind of smile that never reaches beyond his teeth. Peter Calloway to see Mr. Hadley, she overhears him tell the assistant. Maria has heard that name whispered in worried tones during Jonathan's business calls. She's learned to become invisible during her work, and rich men often forget the help has ears. From what she's gathered, Peter Calloway is Jonathan's former business partner turned bitter rival, someone with old grudges and new schemes. As she moves quietly through the house, completing her afternoon rounds, Maria catches fragments of heated conversation drifting from Jonathan's study. Words like leverage, exposure, and destroy everything you've built make her stomach churn. Whatever Peter wants, it's not a friendly social call. The confrontation ends with Peter's departing words carrying clearly through the house. You have 48 hours, Jonathan. Make the right choice, or I'll make it for you. After Peter leaves, Maria finds herself alone in the kitchen, hands shaking as she folds laundry. The weight of what she's discovered, about the money, about Jonathan's troubles, about her family's desperate need, threatens to crush her. She's always prided herself on her honesty, but desperation makes people do things they never imagined possible. That's when she finds it, a small white envelope tucked under the kitchen's coffee maker, her name written across it in block letters. Her blood turns to ice as she tears it open. The message inside contains just 7 words that change everything. I know what you saw today. But here's what makes Maria's knees nearly buckle. The handwriting looks exactly like Peter Calloway's signature she glimpsed on the contracts scattered across Jonathan's desk. Maria stares at the anonymous note in her trembling hands, the words "someone knows what you saw" burning into her memory. Her heart pounds as she quickly stuffs the paper into her apron pocket, glancing around the empty hallway. The footsteps she heard earlier have faded, but the fear lingers like a weight in her chest. She forces herself to continue cleaning, moving mechanically from room to room, but her mind races with questions. Who could have seen her discover the safe? How long had they been watching? The mansion suddenly feels less like a workplace and more like a trap, its luxurious walls closing in around her. "Maria, could you come to my office?" Jonathan's voice echoes from down the hall, startling her from her anxious thoughts. She finds him pacing behind his mahogany desk, his usual composed demeanor replaced by visible agitation. "I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." Maria's stomach drops. He knows. Somehow, he knows about the safe. "Have you noticed anything unusual around the house lately? Anyone who doesn't belong here?" Relief and confusion wash over her simultaneously. "No, Mr. Hadley. Nothing unusual." Jonathan runs his fingers through his graying hair. "My accountant, Stephen Morrison, is coming by this afternoon. He's been asking a lot of questions lately about my business arrangements. If he asks you anything, please let me know immediately." Before Maria can respond, the doorbell chimes throughout the mansion. Jonathan's face hardens. That's him now. As Maria retreats to continue her work, she catches fragments of heated conversation drifting from the office. Words like audit and irregularities make her pause, dust rag frozen in her hand. "Jonathan, the numbers don't add up," she hears the accountant say. "There are significant discrepancies in your quarterly reports. Someone needs to explain where this additional cash is coming from." The pieces begin clicking together in Maria's mind like a puzzle she never wanted to solve. The open safe, the cash, Jonathan's paranoia, what if his wealth isn't as clean as it appears? Her phone buzzes with a text from her sister. "Elena's medical bills are due tomorrow. They're threatening to stop her treatment if we don't pay." The weight of her family's desperation crashes back down on her. She thinks about the $1 million sitting just feet away from where she stands, money that could save her daughter's life. But now, with the accountant's words echoing in her mind, she wonders if that money represents something far more dangerous than she imagined. "Maria?" Jonathan appears suddenly in the doorway, his face pale. "I need to tell you something important. There are people who might try to use you to get to me. If anyone approaches you, anyone at all, you must tell me immediately." She nods, not trusting her voice, but inside she's screaming. The anonymous note feels like it's burning a hole in her pocket. That evening, as she prepares to leave, Maria stops at the kitchen phone. Her hand hovers over the receiver as she debates calling Elena's doctor, begging for more time. Instead, she finds herself dialing a different number. "Hello, is this Peter Calloway's office? I think we need to talk." The voice on the other end is smooth, almost expecting her call. "Maria Sanchez, I presume?" "Yes, we definitely need to talk. There's so much you don't understand about your employer." 20 minutes later, Maria sits in a dimly lit coffee shop across from a man she's never met but somehow feels she should fear. Peter Calloway is younger than Jonathan, with sharp eyes that seem to see straight through her. "Jonathan Hadley isn't the philanthropist he pretends to be," Peter says, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Those charitable donations? That's money laundering. The art collection? Purchased with funds from offshore accounts. Your boss is in deeper trouble than you can imagine." Maria's hands shake as she opens the envelope, revealing bank statements and photographs. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the key to stopping him." Peter leans forward intently. "You have access to his house, his safe, his private conversations. We know you saw the cash. We know you need money for your daughter's treatment. Help us gather evidence, and I'll make sure Elena gets the best medical care money can buy." The offer hangs in the air like a lifeline and a noose simultaneously. Maria thinks of Elena's fever-bright eyes, of the stack of unpaid bills on her kitchen table, of Jonathan's worried face when he spoke about people who might use her. "I need time to think," she whispers. Peter's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "You have until tomorrow night. After that, things get much more complicated for everyone involved." As Maria walks back to her car, her phone rings. The caller ID shows Jonathan's number. The footsteps approaching the office belonged to someone Maria hadn't expected. Peter Calloway's associate, a thin man in an expensive suit she'd seen lurking around the property twice before, stepped into the doorway. His cold smile made her stomach drop. "Miss Sanchez," he said smoothly, closing the door behind him. "We need to talk." Maria's hands trembled as she clutched the cleaning supplies. "I don't know what you mean, sir. I'm just working." "Cut the act." He moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "We know you saw the safe. We know you know about the money. The question is, are you going to help us, or do we need to make things difficult for your family?" The blood drained from Maria's face. How could they possibly know about her family? About her mother's medical bills, her brother's student loans, the mortgage they were about to lose? "I won't do anything to hurt Mr. Hadley," she said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. The man laughed. "Hurt him? Sweetheart, that money doesn't belong to Jonathan. Half of it was supposed to be ours from a business deal he backed out of. We're just taking what's rightfully ours." Meanwhile, 3 floors above in his study, Jonathan paced frantically on the phone with his financial advisor. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The quarterly reports showed discrepancies he couldn't explain, and there had been subtle signs someone was monitoring his accounts. "Michael, I'm telling you, I think someone's trying to set me up," Jonathan said into his phone. "Cancel all wire transfers for the next week. I need to move that cash somewhere safer." But you won't believe what happened next. As Jonathan hung up the phone, he heard the distant wail of sirens growing louder. Police cars were pulling into his circular driveway, their red and blue lights painting his mansion walls in ominous colors. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "They're coming for you, Jonathan. The investigation starts now." Down in the office, Maria watched the associate's confident smirk falter as the police sirens grew deafening. This was her moment. The coercion, the threats to her family, the manipulation, it crystallized her resolve in a way nothing else could have. "You want to know what I think?" Maria stepped forward, her fear transforming into something fiercer. "I think you're the one who's been setting Mr. Hadley up. I think you sent those police here tonight." But here's where the story takes an absolutely shocking turn. The associate's face went pale, and he grabbed Maria's arm. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. Peter's not after Jonathan's money. He's after Jonathan himself. This whole thing, the safe, the cash, even you finding it, it's all been orchestrated." Maria's mind reeled. "What do you mean, orchestrated?" Peter needed someone inside the house, someone Jonathan would trust, someone who could testify that they saw evidence of illegal activity. Finding the safe wasn't an accident, Maria. You were supposed to find it. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. She'd been manipulated from the very beginning, turned into an unwitting pawn in Peter's elaborate scheme to destroy Jonathan. But why? Because 3 years ago, Jonathan's testimony sent Peter's brother to prison, the man continued, his grip tightening. Everything he built, everyone he loved, gone. Now it's Jonathan's turn. The police were at the front door now, their heavy knocks echoing through the mansion. Maria could hear Jonathan's confused voice in the foyer, demanding to know what this was about. She looked the associate dead in the eye. "You made one mistake." "What's that?" "You assumed I'd stay bought." With lightning speed, Maria grabbed the heavy crystal paperweight from Jonathan's desk and smashed it against the man's wrist. He yelped, releasing her arm, giving her just enough time to sprint toward the door. But as she reached the hallway, she heard Jonathan's voice rise in panic from downstairs. "There has to be some mistake, officers. I run a legitimate business." And then came the words that made Maria's heart stop. "Sir, we have a warrant to search the premises. We've received credible information about money laundering operations conducted from this residence." Maria realized Peter's plan was already in motion. The police weren't here by coincidence, they were here because someone had tipped them off about the safe, about the cash, about everything. And somehow, this was all supposed to point back to her testimony. Racing down the marble staircase, Maria saw Jonathan surrounded by 6 police officers, his face pale with confusion and growing terror. This was the moment that would determine both their fates. But what she was about to do next would shock Jonathan so completely that he'd be reaching for his lawyer's number before she even finished speaking. Jonathan's hands tremble as he paces his study, the weight of his confession hanging heavy in the air between them. Maria watches him with new understanding, her heart racing as pieces of the puzzle finally click into place. The man she'd seen as untouchably wealthy, living in this Beverly Hills fortress, carries a burden she never imagined. "Maria, I need you to understand something," Jonathan says, his voice cracking with vulnerability. "Not all of this money came from legitimate sources. My father, he made deals with people who don't forgive debts. That's why I've been so paranoid, why I can't trust anyone." He stops pacing and looks directly at her. "That's why Peter wants to destroy me. He knows about the dirty money, and he's planning to expose everything unless I hand over my entire fortune." Maria feels her breath catch. This explains the mysterious visitors, the late-night phone calls, the way Jonathan constantly looked over his shoulder. "Mr. Hadley," she says softly, "that's why you need to call your lawyer. Right now." Jonathan shakes his head desperately. "You don't understand. If this comes out, I'll lose everything. The legitimate businesses, the investments, my reputation. But if you don't act, Peter will take it all anyway," Maria interrupts, surprising herself with her boldness. "At least if you come forward voluntarily, you have control over the situation." For a moment, Jonathan stares at her in amazement. This woman, who earns more in a year than he spends on a single dinner, is offering him wisdom that his expensive consultants never could. "You're right," he whispers. "You're absolutely right." Maria moves to his desk and picks up the phone. "What's your lawyer's number?" As Jonathan recites the digits, Maria dials with steady hands. When the lawyer answers, she passes the phone to Jonathan, but stays close, offering silent support. She listens as Jonathan explains everything: the inherited dirty money, Peter's blackmail scheme, his desperate need for legal protection. 20 minutes later, Jonathan hangs up with visible relief flooding his face. He says, "We can work with federal prosecutors. If I voluntarily disclose everything and cooperate fully, I might keep the legitimate portions of my wealth and avoid prison time." "That's wonderful news," Maria says, genuinely happy for him. Jonathan walks to his safe, the same safe that started this entire journey. With deliberate movements, he closes it securely and spins the combination lock. "Maria, I owe you more than I can ever repay. Your honesty, your courage, you saved my life tonight." "I just did what felt right," Maria replies, though her chest swells with pride. "No, you did what was right," Jonathan corrects her. "And because of that, I want to help you the way you've helped me." He pulls out his checkbook and begins writing. "This should cover your mother's medical bills and give your family a fresh start." Maria's eyes widen as she sees the amount, $50,000. It's more money than she's ever seen in her life. "Mr. Hadley, I can't accept this. I didn't help you for money. I know you didn't. That's exactly why you deserve it." Jonathan's smile is genuine for the first time since she's known him. "I'm also offering you a position as my personal assistant. Full benefits, excellent salary, and the chance to help me rebuild my business the right way." Tears stream down Maria's face as she realizes her family's struggles are finally over. Her mother will get the surgery she needs. Her children will have opportunities she could never have provided alone. "Thank you," she whispers. "Thank you for trusting me." 3 weeks later, Maria sits in a federal courthouse as Jonathan testifies before a grand jury. Peter Calloway has been arrested for extortion and conspiracy. The dirty money has been forfeited to the government, but Jonathan's legitimate business empire remains intact. More importantly, he's regained something he'd lost long ago: the ability to sleep peacefully at night. As they leave the courthouse together, Jonathan turns to Maria. "You know, when I left that safe open, I thought it was the biggest mistake of my life. Now I realize it was the best thing that ever happened to me." Maria smiles, thinking of her children starting their new school next week, of her mother's successful surgery last Tuesday, of the future that suddenly seems bright with possibility. Sometimes, she says, our biggest mistakes become our greatest blessings. The story of a billionaire's open safe had become something far more valuable, a testament to the power of doing what's right, even when it's difficult. In a world where trust seems impossible to find, Maria and Jonathan discovered that integrity creates bonds stronger than any fortune. What would you have done in Maria's position? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in human nature.